Today on Max Magazine, we're learning about safety when you're out playing this summer. Now first we check out what to do and what not to do while camping. Riding all-terrain vehicles is next on the list of summer activities, while others in the province prefer to go boating. Then, because our canine companions are part of our family too, we visit a place where they train you and your dog how to play safe. Welcome to another edition of Max Magazine. I'm your host, Brad Grass, and today's episode is all about having fun, summer fun in the great outdoors, but more than that, how to be safe and have fun at the same time. Now, you'll never guess what I'm going to do today. You know what we're doing today? I'm going to learn how to ride a bike. Yeah, I've always wanted to ride a motorbike, but I've never learned how. But here to help me with that is my good friend, Barry Muir. And Barry, you've been an instructor here in Regina on bikes for how long now?
Over 30 years.
Wow.
Since 1978.
So I'm in good hands. Okay, that guy knows his stuff. Now, in this course, it's 2 4-hour sessions.
Yes, it is.
Just a basic begin for a guy like me who's never been on before. This is how I want to start.
This is a pre-beginner course. If there's any doubt as to whether or not you want to ride or not, this is the one that you want to take. It's not our full course, but it'll give you an introduction to say, yeah, I think I want to continue on with this.
Okay, good. So it's a nice, easy way to hop on the bike. Because we've talked about this, actually, what often happens here in Saskatchewan, you've seen a lot, is you'll have someone and their significant other. One loves to ride, the other never has. So this is a great way for them to initiate them into the world of riding a bike.
Yeah, it's quite often the other significant other buys a bike for their partner, and their plan is to ride off into the sunset and enjoy life together and live happily ever after. And here's a chance to see whether or not they like it.
Absolutely. Now, I imagine safety, of course, as in anything we do, has some part in this as well.
Yes, it's absolutely critical when you first learn how to ride properly. There's a lot of things that people make mistakes on that they're not quite sure of, and this way we can get you off to a proper start. We can't teach you to be an expert here, but we can give you the skills so that when you leave here, you can become an expert in your own bike.
Okay, because in this, as in anything we do for summer fun, whether we're biking or boating or even camping, safety is, of course, a priority. That's what this show is all about today. So, you know what? Our first story, in fact, is going to take us sleeping under the stars and the safety that's involved there. So, you know what? Why don't you check that out while I take Barry over here and learn how to ride a bike.
All right, let's go.
Whether you're with friends or family, it's a lot more relaxing around a campfire or on the edge of the lake if you know that you're pretty much safe. And that safety comes from preparation. Well, I like to think of safety in visit to a national park from 3 points, really all related to preparation. How do you prepare for the environment? How do you prepare yourself? And how do you prepare your gear? Well, the best thing to do is know where you're going and how long you're going to be there for, and realize that things change over time. So take a look at that environment from a point of view of some of the things you're going to be sharing it with, like some of the wildlife. Know what some of the potential hazards are there. And I'm not talking about big things like bears and elk necessarily. I'm also having people think about their comfort as it has to do with things like mosquitoes and black flies. Simple things like arriving early and making sure you've got enough light to set up a campsite and to chop your firewood and things like that. Too many people arrive at the last minute, the sun's just going down, and it turns into a disaster. What otherwise could be a simple trip turns into a disaster for that evening because you're trying to do everything in the dark in an area that you're not familiar with. So plan to arrive early, have your gear exactly where you need it when you do arrive. And as I said, know about the different hazards in the area and knowing yourself. So So when you're in the park, it is a big park and there's lots of wildlife. Even if you don't know they're out there, they are. And the animals people are most concerned with are the ones that might be interested in our food, primarily North American black bears, which is the only kind of bear found in the park. So whether you're camping in the back country or in the front country, you always want to make sure that your food is stowed away in a bear-proof container or in a location where the bears can't get at it. And in the back country, of course, that would be up in a tree on a pole system or maybe with a line. And in the front country, if you have your car here, stick it in your car. We also provide lockers at some of the campsites for people who may be traveling even by bike and want to make sure they have a safe place to store their food. They've got steel bear-proof lockers there. So bear-proofing your campsite is really important, and also knowing what to do, how to avoid bears when you're heading down the trail. And so clothing and gear are important too as far as safety goes. And if you come ready for a variety of situations, never trust the weather, first of all, because and the forecast, because things can always change. But if you come with your gear ready so that you can take on the extremes for whatever period or season that you're going to be there in. But in the boreal forest, an evening can cool off just close to zero sometimes, even in the middle of July. So you're going to make sure you got a couple of extra fleeces and some closed-toed shoes, things like that. It never rains, but it pours. But you could be here for a week and it's sunny days. But all you need to do is have one wet night and you know that you're not prepared. So your tent's got to be rainproof, of course, and you want to make sure you've got rain gear packed away just in case. My friends and I are hiking the Spruce River Highlands Trail. How do I get prepared? What goes into my pack as far as gear? Well, I know where I'm going. I've got my map. I've let a couple of people know when we're expected back. And what am I going to put in here? Well, I know that the weather can change, so I got an extra fleece. I've got my rain gear. Of course, there always could be bugs, so some repellent. Make sure that the stuff that you take in your backpack is good enough for the situation. So you've got a light sweater, an extra pair of socks if you're hiking somewhere like that. Make sure you got a first aid kit. Make sure a map and compass, of course, and also probably a field guide to help you know where you're going to be heading out to. Those simple kinds of preparations can make a lot of difference. People are starting to realize that the boreal forest depends on forest fire for its natural changes. But that doesn't mean that human beings can be careless with fire, because we want to be concerned with our own safety and other values at risk. And that means making sure that you build a campfire safely and make sure that it's well out when it's time to go.
Okay, now before I can even jump onto this bike right here, I have to make sure that I'm appropriately dressed, right, Barry?
Yep. One of the things you want to make sure that you got your jacket on, a good leather jacket.
Okay, got that, check.
Need to have, yeah. And jacket needs to be done up, so it's not closed up.
I can't look cool.
You need to have over the ankle boots, which look okay.
Yeah, I do indeed, yeah.
We do recommend at some point, cowboy boots are not the greatest riding attire. Anything that you can slip on will slip off in an accident.
Okay.
Okay, so it should be a snug-fitting boot. But it does have a rubber sole, which is good.
Okay.
You need good leather gloves.
Check.
You need eye protection, which is on your visor and your helmet, which is fine.
Well, there you go. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, and before you get on the bike, you have to have all of your gear on and ready to go.
For a beginner, it's pretty important to have the visor, but I guess there's all kinds of helmets, right?
Well, there's all kinds of helmets. Of the helmets, particularly for new riders, it's all about risk management. Okay, if you have an accident on your motorcycle, it's going to hurt. At an early stage in riding, you want the best gear on that you possibly can get. Okay, and that means you should have a full coverage helmet and not one of the 3/4 or not one of the shorties. If you have an accident on your motorcycle and you have a shorty helmet on, you could do an awful lot of damage to your face, which you're a good, handsome-looking guy. You'd like to keep that way.
You're saying that because I have a face mask on.
Yeah, right.
And of course, I'll do this.
Yeah, you got to do the helmet up
right.
before you get on the bike.
But another sport that also requires something to protect the old noggin is the wonderful world of ATVs. Check this out.
An ATV, you should consider proper safety gear and the type of machine that's used for your application. The key to safety-wise when you are buying your kid an ATV is that you don't want to just go out there and buy a machine and not get them dressed properly, not spend the time to properly educate them. There's machines out there that have a ton of safety features, remote kill switches, so that the kid is out riding the machine, something happens, you've got a remote in your hand that can press the button and shut the engine down. Safety in ATVing involves the proper gear. Helmet is the first and most important part before you go out ATVing, is to have a helmet that properly fits you. The most common helmet being used today is the motocross style helmet. It offers protection to the front of your face as well as a peak, which is used for a stun visor. A proper fitting helmet is a helmet that doesn't squeeze your temples, that doesn't squeeze your cheeks, but isn't too loose and shaking around your head. A snug fit is an important key to a safe helmet.
Like everything, there are dozens of manufacturers that put out, equipment. But what you want to really look for is an approved helmet, like a DOT approved helmet. It's got to have a stamp in it that it does meet the standard, or don't buy it. As far as riding goes, fancy riding gear is a nice to have, but you want good sturdy boots that come up past your ankle for ankle support. Good sturdy gloves, and you want a minimum of blue jeans, that kind of thing, and a sturdy coat, because how many times have we seen people out riding with flip-flops and shorts? Well, if they wipe out, they're going to leave some hide behind. So you want to protect yourself.
One thing you should really, really be aware of is not only what you're riding, but where you're riding. When you're on a snowmobile or a two-wheel bike, you might have a trail. On a quad, 9 times out of 10, you're off-road, so be aware of where you're riding. There could be obstacles in the long grass. If you're going through the bush, there may be a fallen tree. Things can happen instantly and not even know it's coming.
Posted land by farmers is an area that you shouldn't be ATVing. Provincial parks aren't open to ATVing. There's different game reserve areas that aren't open to ATVing. Having permission to use the land that you get to go ride on is a key part.
And of course, we always suggest that for personal use is to take a safety rider's course, because a lot of people will purchase a machine and they believe, well, I know what I'm doing. And the dynamics of riding are not the same from one machine to the next, and you really have to understand how your machine performs. It breaks down right to the basics of riding, what to do in different scenarios, how to properly apply brakes, knowing the limitations of riding on hills and side slopes and things like that. It teaches you the fundamentals of how to be a safe operator, so you'll never get yourself into a situation where you can get injured.
Well, Barry, I'll admit, the thought of taking a bike onto the open streets in the city, it makes me a little nervous. I mean, as a general rule, when I'm in the car, I obey the rules of the road, but not everybody does. Now, is that a valid fear?
Yes, cars aren't, particularly this time of the year, cars aren't aware that motorcyclists are out there. They can come up really quick in your blind spot. They're small. They're easy to miss, and so you really have to be careful as a motorcyclist that you're really careful about the cars out there. Assume that you're not being seen.
You bring up a good point because, and again, when I'm in my car, I make a concerted effort to make sure that I see a motorcyclist, right. but sometimes, Barry, they're just hard to see.
Yeah, I know. We try to sort of go with a mantra. If you're in the car, you look left, you look right, then you look left again. That second check to the left-hand side may just save a motorcycle coming up through an intersection that you weren't quite aware of, okay? You check, and then check again.
I know a friend of mine got a bike, and he said that he put extra loud mufflers on his bike so that motorists could hear him. Now, is that a good idea?
I don't think so. If there's enough of you, yeah, it does make a difference. But by and large, a single motorcyclist is not heard inside the vehicles unless you're right beside them, and then, of course, obviously, they know that you're there.
Right. Well, another sporting activity that's popular in the summertime, and the whole family can enjoy, is boating. Now that's one where it's important to be safe, and another one where you need a license. As this next story will show you, it's important that everyone's on board when it comes to safe boating for the whole family.
You're sitting down. You ready? Yep. Awesome.
At the Waskesiu Marine Adventure Center, for our rentals, safety is really our highest priority. And that means putting people out on the water in a way that ensures or is going to ensure their safety while they're out on the water. That means having all the proper equipment in the boat, and also that the people that are renting know how to operate the equipment on board. For those that want to rent a powerboat and get out on the water, we go through approximately a 10-minute demonstration of the engine, how to operate the motor properly, all the safety equipment. We make sure that people are competent to operate the boat during the time of the boat rental, that it will ensure their safety and the safety of others that are on the water as well.
This September 15th, 2009, all recreational powerboats operators will be required to have a Pleasure Craft operator card. It's a program that's been around for 10 years, and we've been phasing it in over the last 10 years. The card is basically a card that says that you have basic boating safety knowledge and that you would be able to operate your boat competently. Also make sure that you check the weather before you leave the dock and be prepared to stop and change your plans if the weather suddenly turns for the worse. You know, be prepared to come back into shore if the waves start to pick up or the storm is blowing in. In Canada every year, sadly, there are approximately 6,000 Canadians that are hurt while they're recreational boating, and there's approximately 150 fatalities a year. And that's something that the Office of Boating Safety and Transport Canada would like to see reduced.
Also have paddling instructors as well. So if you want to go out on the water with a guide, and we can provide that. If you want to go out on your own, of course, and you need a little bit of instructions, we can provide proper paddling instructions.
Making sure you wear a PFD with you when you're always on the water is the first thing to boat safety. So today, basically, we'll be taking out a canoe out on the lovely lake here, and I'm just going to run through a few basic tips of how to do that. You have your canoe and you want all your safety equipment. So as I said, my PFD that fits proper and is approved by Canada Coast Guard, a paddle, an extra paddle, a bailer, safety kit, and a line on the front in case I need to tie the boat off or something like that. Other than that, we basically just get in the boat and ready to go. So one of the most important things to know is how to get into a boat. Basically, you step into the middle of the boat, grabbing the middle, not either one of the sides, just standing straight up and then sitting right down in the middle of the boat, holding on to the dock. And then once you're nice and balanced, just kind of spreading your feet out, getting a nice base, making sure the boat's pretty stable, then you're really pretty much ready to go. So we'll just grab our paddles and we'll have a great time out there on the lake. One of the important things to always bring along with you is a safety kit. And in this one here, we got waterproof flashlight batteries that we checked before that we know it works. We got some buoyant heaving line in case we were to fall out of the boat or something, somebody was coming to try to rescue us. It floats and we can throw it quite far. And then in here, we also got a whistle. So if we have to get a hold of somebody, nice loud whistle. And then also, it acts as a bailer, so it works out really well.
What we really want every Canadian to remember is make safety part of their crew before they leave the dock this summer, have their safety equipment with them, know how to use it, take a boating safety course, and that will help make you and your family and your friends safe out on the water, and that will make sure that every trip is a return trip.
Well, I've got this far, Barry. I'm sitting on the bike now. I got the proper attire on. But eventually one day, Barry, when I'm good enough and I've got the experience, I'd love to bring my kids along with me for the ride. Now, what's important for someone to remember if they want to bring someone along with them?
Well, first of all, you have to be really competent on your motorcycle to start with, okay? That you're absolutely under control, that you know your bike, you can balance it, you can start and stop, you've got a number of miles under your belt on your bike. And then once that happens, you have to make sure that your passenger is as well equipped or better equipped than you are. Full gear all the time, must be there, must be on.
You just reminded me of a story. I was down in LA one time and there's this great big biker dude, beautiful Harley, but what caught my eye was behind him, speaking of being properly attired, behind him was his pet dog. It was a Chihuahua, but it was all decked out in biker gear. It even had something called goggles. It was hilarious, funniest thing I ever saw. But it brings to mind, people like to bring their pets along and having summer fun. Is that something you'd recommend? And if so, is there proper gear or attire that you could get a dog?
By and large, I wouldn't recommend it. I know I have dogs and they travel with me all the time, except when I'm on my motorcycle, and I've always thought, gee, I'd like to be able to do that. There is stuff that you can get to keep your dog, again, depends on size of the dog, but there is gear that you can get that you can put onto your bike that will keep the dog relatively safe. The problem is you don't want them jumping off or you know, in traffic is really absolutely dangerous. Yeah, so there is gear available. But I, by and large, wouldn't recommend it. If I had a sidecar, you know, maybe that's a possibility. But
well, that's a good idea. Yeah. But nonetheless, people love to take their pets along with them. Maybe not a good idea to have the Great Dane on the bike, but people do like to have summer fun with their pets along with them. But again, it's important. It can be very, very dangerous if it's not properly done, right? However, there is a training facility, believe it or not, in Big River that trains your dog the proper safety in boating, in riding an ATV, in hunting, and even just plain old good manners. Check this out.
Let's go for a boat ride. Let's go, Apollo. Gail here. Atta girl. Good girl. Gail here. We're at Trail Runners Canine Training Center and Pet Resort. We train aggressive dogs, we train hunting dogs, we train obedience, practical obedience, dogs that are gonna get put down because they're out of control. We take them and we train them, and then we train the people. Safety is really important with the pets because they are just like children, and children don't always think ahead. So we have to think ahead for our pets. Dogs that cannot swim, they should have their own life jacket. Okay, this is Apollo, and Apollo, he can swim a little bit, but because the water's cold, we want to keep him warm and we want to keep him safe. And he's got a little floating thing here to hold his head up if he panics. And the life jacket's gonna keep him warm, and I got a little handle here to hold on to Apollo. Hey, we're gonna go for a little swim, Apollo. People assume that a dog can swim, and that's not the truth. Dogs that I'm not sure of their swimming ability, we teach them how to swim. He's just learning to swim, and dogs that learn to swim, they want to bail out and go to the safest spot, which is the shore. Here. Atta girl. Atta girl. I gotta help her in. Atta girl. Good puppy. Good girl. There you go. Sit. Good dog. Good dog. Sit. Sit. Mark. Sit. Sit. With gun dog training, guns are an issue. The hunters are excited, the dogs are excited, and safety often is forgotten. And so guns, especially loaded guns. For hunting, you need a loaded gun to shoot your game, but you have to be careful that the dog doesn't run out in front of you. You have to just always be on guard, always be watchful. It's so important. With hunting, dogs that are not well trained, they get excited about the hunt, the hunters are excited, and a dog that will go before it's told to go or released is a dog that's in danger. Just like hunters are excited, dogs are excited, and a dog has to be steady. If the dog is not steady, then that dog is not ready for hunting. One of the biggest things out quadding with the dog is to be watching the dog. Dogs can hear things or see things and dart in front of you, just like if you were driving a car. And so you've got to train your dog to heel beside your quad so that they learn to move left when you go left, move right when you go right. The dog learns to get on the quad or off the quad, and if you don't want them on your quad, then you're gonna have to stop and rest. But if you want to keep going, then you have to have either a buggy or a place, a spot right behind you on your quad to put your dog on. And people forget about that when they're taking their dogs. And dogs love to go, just like in a car, they like to go for a quad ride. Enjoying recreational activities with your pet is really important, but the most important thing is that you and your pet do it safely, that you be the eyes and you be the ears for them, that they may not see the dangers out there. And that's the most important thing, that we just want you to have a safe time with your pet and love them up and do it safely. Sit. Good girl.
This is great. Love it. Oh, this is amazing. You know what? This is a fantastic course. And Barry, this was not as difficult as I thought this was going to be. This is actually a lot of fun. So you know what? I want to thank you, first of all. This is a great course, a really good idea.
Oh, we enjoyed having you here.
I'm ready now to continue my training and eventually get my license. But I highly recommend you take this course from Barry.
What you want to do now is take the full course now.
Right.
And at that point, you'll be ready to get on your bike and ride it on your Harley off into the sunset.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, I'm just a few courses away from having the summer of my life. And we want you to have the summer of your life, too. So this is it, our safest edition of Max Magazine. We hope that everyone, you and yours, has a fun and safe, happy summer with your family all summer long. Until then, I'm Brad Grass with my friend Barry on another edition of Max Magazine. Good. Thanks, man.
Want to get actively involved? You can submit your own videos to Local On Demand. If it's relevant to your community, we'd like to air it. You just need to find our guidelines for content, quality, and production on the SaskTel website under the Personal category in the Entertainment Services section. Or just send us your program idea. If it's chosen, we'll shoot it and air it on Local On Demand. Email us at max.localondemand@sasktel.sk.ca or send a letter to the address on the screen. We'd love to hear from you.